right, friends, remember that we're focusing on participation right now. So we're thinking about when we're typing in the chat box, when we're raising our hand if it's a question that's being asked, and speaking out loud to our learning coaches. Remember how we've been talking about that? We say it out loud to get it stuck in our brains. So I want you to be able to give yourself a smiley face. You could ask your learning coach to support you with this. You might say, learning coach, if you notice that I'm getting off track with participation, I'm not getting a smiley face, will you help remind me so that I can give myself a smiley face at the end? All right, Kayla, hopefully, oh, she's having a heck of a time with tech. We know that happens. Hopefully that resolves. We're going to get started with our lesson for today. I want you to gather your materials, so the most important one today being the hundreds chart. If you have your hundreds chart in your math set, or if your learning coach printed it out from the email I sent yesterday, grab that. If you don't have a 100 chart, it's okay. You can use the one on the board with us. But I want you to grab it if you have it. And then if you do have your hundreds chart, grabbing like a crayon or colored pencil or a highlighter would be super helpful. And then a green check mark shows me you have your materials and you're ready to get started. I want everybody to have a chance to grab those. So a hundreds chart, and then maybe a crayon or coloring pencil or a highlighter. If you don't have it, just give me your green check mark so I know you're ready to get going. Letting me know you're ready, Aveline and Autumn and Alexis. Thank you, Crystal and Jose, Catherine and Cody for showing me you're ready. Thank you, Lonnie and Sophia V and Sochi for showing me you're ready. If you don't have a green check mark, that means you're grabbing your hundreds chart. So we're focusing on the work that you've been doing on Unit 1 in the lessons in your online school. And part of that is skip counting. That's when we skip some of the numbers as we count. Instead of counting 1, 2, 3, 4 like this, we're skipping some of the numbers, skip counting. That's what that's from. So the first thing we want to look at is counting by 10. So we know we can just count regular, 1, 2, 3 like this. But we can also count by tens. What does that mean, count by tens? What does counting by tens mean? Tell your learning coach what you're thinking. And then raise your hand or type it in the chat box if you want to share. We can talk about counting by tens in lots of different ways. What does that mean? If I say count by tens, what are we talking about? Remember, we're talking about skip counting. What are we skipping if we count by tens? So what does that mean, counting by tens? Don't forget your talk button.
Skipping all the numbers between 10 and 20.
Thank you, Dawood. And Cody and Sophia and Krista were saying that in the chat box too. We're skipping the numbers 1 through 9 and just counting every 10th number. So our first one would be 10. Thank you to all the friends who are showing me that they understand what we're talking about by raising your hand and typing in the chat box. That's your participation. So we're skipping all the numbers until we get to 10. So that sounds like this. Skipping 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We say the 10th number, and then we go to the next row and we do the same thing. I'm seeing a lot of you are showing me that you know what that looks like in the chat box. When you're writing that out, make sure you leave a space or put commas so I know that those are separate numbers. So look at what Elijah did. See how he did 10, 20, 30, 40, and so on, but he left spaces there. Or same Jose did it with periods between. There you go. You guys are getting the hang of it. I wonder, okay, I'm going to put the hands down because we talked about what skip counting by tens means. Do I have a friend who wants to give it a try to show us if I'm going to skip count by tens, this is what it sounds like. And I want all my friends to do this at home with their learning coaches. All right, Sophia, press your talk button for me. Sophia S., what does it sound like to skip count by tens?
10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100.
Thank you, Sophia. That was brave to say that over the mic. And thank you, friends, for encouraging her. So Sophia showed us all those numbers, just like lots of my friends did in the chat box, that we say when we skip count by 10. And I'm going to highlight them for us because I want us to see what patterns we notice. So if we look now at our hundreds chart, here are all our numbers that we're skip counting by 10 up to 100. What do you notice about the numbers on the hundreds chart when you skip count by 10? Let me lower the hands because that's a new question. What do you notice about the numbers, the highlighted numbers on the chart? Tell your learning coach what you're thinking, and then raise your hand or type in the chat box if you want to share. What do you notice about the highlighted chart numbers? This is our chart. These are the numbers that we skip count by 10. What do you notice? Cody, press your talk button and tell us.
All of them end with 0.
They all end with 0. And I see Elijah and DeWood and Crystal said that too. Thank you, Cody. Yeah, they all end in 0. Oh, that's something important to notice. And the 0 is in the same spot. It's 1 and then 0, 2 and then 0, 3 and then 0, all the way down the whole row. There's something else. Somebody said about something they noticed. What else did you notice? Sochi, I saw you typed it in the chat box. You want to press your talk button and tell us? What did you notice about those highlighted numbers?
They're all in a row.
Thank you, Sochi. So Sochi noticed that this is actually called a column. When it goes up and down like this, it's a column. They're all in the same column, the tens column. So rows go this way, columns go this way. Sochi noticed all of our tens are in the same column. That tens column, that's another pattern that she noticed. I love seeing, too, that my friends know in the chat box. That helps me to know that you get it when you type it in the chat box and when you raise your hand. Nice job, you guys. All right, I want us to practice counting by tens one more time, and then we're going to move on. So let's raise our hand. I can let 5 kids speak on the mic at once. So raise your hand, and the first 5 can count by tens. And if you didn't get a chance this time, I still want you to say it at home with your learning coach. Okay, so DeWood, go ahead and turn your mic on. Catherine, Crystal, Jose, and Aveline. All right, friends, here we go. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, So just like we did with tens, when we say we're going to count by 5s, what does that mean we're doing? What are we doing when we're counting by 5s? Tell your learning coach what you know. And then raise your hand or type in the chat box. When we're counting by 5s, what does that mean? What are we doing? Asher, what are we doing when we count by 5s?
We skip every 5.
We skip to every 5. Yeah, thanks, Asher. So what does that mean our first number would be?
Our first number would be 5.
You got it. Thanks, Asher. I'm going to mark it. So our first number is 5. So that sounds like this. If we're skipping all the numbers until we get to a 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 is our first number. So we're going to do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we get to 10. Oh my goodness. And can we look at some of the notes that people wrote in the chat box? Because I find it so helpful to hear different ways of it being explained. So Sophia V said skip 5 to the 10 column. So she was saying what we do after we get our first 5. We skip 5 more until we get to that 10 column. And Sophia was using that word column because she knows that that's the column that we were in. DeWood wrote skip 1, 2, 3, 4 and start at 5. Oh, I love it how you guys are helping explaining it in different ways. That's so helpful for our friends. I want you now to think about your participation. We're going to do our self-evaluation. So when I turn on the whiteboard tools, you're going to mark the smiley face, straight face, or sad face with your participation. So you're thinking about, were you typing in the chat box with the things that we were talking about? Were you raising your hand to participate on the mic? And were you saying the things out loud to your learning coach that we were practicing to help get them stuck in your brain? Okay, here you go. Grab a pointer tool and click on the face that matches your participation today. How did you do with participation? Once you've clicked on the face that matches your participation, I want you to ask your learning coach too. Does your learning coach agree? If your learning coach doesn't agree, how come? And if you didn't get to give yourself a smiley face today, remember tomorrow's a new day. You can always do better tomorrow. But I do